William Fouts House was born on December 1, 1923, in Kansas City, Kansas. He came into a world already shaped by extraordinary innovation. His father, Milas Payne House, was a globally recognized dentist, inventor, and educator. As a young man in Indiana, Milas worked as a cowboy, taming wild ponies for $5 a day. One day, a toothache sent him to a dentist, who removed the offending molar in minutes, and charged him exactly $5. That experience sparked a revelation. Milas decided he wanted to become a dentist. And so he did, training himself in an era when dental schools were often little more than makeshift classrooms. Milas went on to invent tools, write books, and teach students around the world. One of his creations, the House Articulator, revolutionized the fit of dentures, yet he chose not to patent it, believing instead in sharing ideas freely. William grew up surrounded by this spirit of invention and integrity. He was one of 4 boys, raised in a strict, religious household in Whittier, California. There, William and his brother, Warren, ran a small business selling milk door-to-door and even sold avocado seedlings to a man named Rudolph Hass, the same Hass who would later lend his name to the world's most popular avocado. Despite a devout upbringing, William was never afraid to challenge what he had been taught. In high school, he was introduced to modern science and evolution. He accepted the new knowledge rather than taking the biblical story of Adam and Eve literally. This openness to truth, even when it conflicted with tradition, would become a defining trait. In 1941, William entered Whittier College to study dentistry. Just days after the attack on Pearl Harbor, he tried to enlist in the Navy, but was told to finish school first. Eventually, he transferred to UCSF, where one night at a dance, he met a young nurse named June Stendhal. It wasn't love at first sight, for her, at least. But William persisted. Despite a rocky first impression and a case of mistaken identity, they were married in 1945. William graduated from dental school in the same year, but by then, his ambitions had shifted. He wanted to be a surgeon. Encouraged by his father, he enrolled in medical school, with Milas supporting him financially and emotionally. After a brief stint in the Navy, he found himself at odds with a system that prioritized speed over patient care. Driven by a deep commitment to alleviating suffering, he challenged the prevailing norms, an act of defiance that ultimately put his entire future on the line. William entered a surgical residency at LA County Hospital. There, he discovered a remarkable talent. He could visualize human anatomy in vivid 3-dimensional detail, a gift that proved especially valuable in navigating the dense bone structures of the inner ear. In the hospital morgue, using one of the first surgical microscopes in the US, he began dissecting temporal bones. What he saw stunned him, an inner universe of intricate structures, now visible in far greater detail. This moment was, in his words, as awe-inspiring as standing at the rim of the Grand Canyon. His discoveries led to a series of groundbreaking surgical techniques. In 1958, he pioneered facial recess surgery. By 1960, he developed both the middle fossa and translabyrinthine approaches for acoustic neuroma removal. In 1963, he introduced a shunt operation for Meniere's disease, an operation that would help restore astronaut Alan Shepard to flight status for Apollo 14. But William House's most enduring legacy began in 1957, when a newspaper clipping landed in his hands. It described an experiment in France where sound was transmitted electrically into the ear. The idea ignited something in William. He partnered with engineer Jim Doyle to build a rudimentary cochlear implant and began testing it on deaf volunteers. The results were modest, but promising. Patients could hear sounds, detect environmental cues, and read lips more effectively. But complications arose. The body rejected the implant materials, and worse, his partnership with Doyle ended in betrayal. With no formal agreement in place, Doyle claimed ownership of the technology and refused to share the designs. Undeterred, William waited. Over the next decade, biocompatible materials improved. But when he returned to the project, he was met with skepticism, even ridicule. Colleagues told him his work would stain their reputations. Some urged him to stop entirely. But William had a simple realization: cats, often used in hearing experiments, could not tell us what they heard. Humans could. And the stakes were too high to wait. As Helen Keller once said, blindness separates us from things, but deafness separates us from people. With new materials and help from engineer Jack Urban, William tried again. One patient, a school teacher named Chuck Grazer, became the focus of their efforts. Together, they created a working single-electrode cochlear implant. The device was approved by the FDA in 1985. For the first time, profoundly deaf adults could experience sound and human connection through an implant.
In July 1970, we began systematic exploration of the sound sensations produced by electronic signals. We had no knowledge of what these responses would be, and we had no preconceived theories as to which electronic signals would be best. We had simply designed a system to give maximum flexibility of signal stimulus and had the possibility of stimulating 1 to 5 different parts of the cochlea. We started with simple electronic waveforms and progressed over a period of 2 years to very complex electronic analogs of speech. We recognized that we would have to build waveform generators of increasing complexity as we gained more information. We had reached the most crucial point in the entire investigation. Would constant use cause the electrodes to disappear by electrolysis? Would constant use damage the inner ear? Would Grazer be annoyed or even harmed by stray electronic fields such as those under high-tension wires? It was with mixed feelings of anticipation and apprehension that we gave Grazer his new ear. The next year was filled with excitement.
I can't think of anything to say right now.
Why not?
I have run out of things to say.
Let me see if I can think of a good question for you then. Can you put some of the words that I've tried to learn in sentences? You know, baby, sailboat type.
The earthquake
Ruined the city.
Some scientific experiments seem to show that a person deaf since birth, like Karen, would never be able to hear, even if this sense was restored to her. This was only one of the many uncertainties confronting us now. Can you possibly imagine your own reaction to hearing music for the first time? We had broken the barrier of silence which has afflicted the deaf for thousands of years. But this is only the first step in a journey that will take work, devotion, money, and much time. It is clearly possible to open the ears of those born deaf.
Eventually, William became the first to implant a child with this device in the US. The results? Some could understand speech. Some could use the phone. And some regained what had once been thought permanently lost, a voice in the world. It wasn't about fame. It wasn't about money. William House simply wanted to help. His final goal was to make cochlear implants accessible and affordable worldwide. But today, for every 100 people with profound deafness, only one has received an implant. There's still work to be done. At age 88, after a lifetime of reflection, William House found comfort and clarity in the Baha'i teachings following his wife's passing, deepening his connection through community and study. Moved by love, truth, and a lifelong spirit of service, he embraced the faith and formally joined the Baha'i community. Dr. William House didn't just invent a device, he gave voice to the voiceless. He proved that science, when guided by courage and compassion, can truly transform lives.